1. Brandon Roy. Brandon Roy was one of the smoothest guards of his generation, drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers in 2006. He quickly established himself as an elite scorer, playmaker, and clutch performer. Roy was named Rookie of the Year and became a 3-time All-Star within his first 5 seasons. Many believed he was on track to be one of the best shooting guards of the 2000s. Unfortunately, chronic knee injuries caused by a lack of cartilage ended his career far too soon. Despite undergoing multiple surgeries and trying to make comebacks, his body simply couldn't withstand the demands of the NBA. Roy officially retired in 2011 at just 27 years old. Fans still wonder how great he could have been if his knees had held up, as he had the talent, leadership, and mentality to lead Portland deep into the playoffs and cement a Hall of Fame legacy. 2. Yao Ming, the 7'6" center from China, transformed the NBA into a global game. Drafted first overall by the Houston Rockets in 2002, he became an immediate star. His size made him dominant in the post, but he also had soft shooting touch and great passing ability for a big man. Yao was an 8-time All-Star and one of the most beloved players worldwide, bridging basketball between China and the US. However, his career was plagued by foot and ankle injuries, which are common for players of his extraordinary size. Despite surgeries and long rehab sessions, Yao's body couldn't keep up with the grind of an 82-game season. He retired in 2011 at just 30 years old, ending a promising career that felt incomplete. Still, his impact went far beyond the court, and he remains a Hall of Famer remembered as one of the most influential international players ever. 3. Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP in NBA history at 22, was once viewed as the future face of the league. Drafted first overall by the Chicago Bulls in 2008, Rose's explosive athleticism, lightning-quick drives, and fearless finishing at the rim electrified fans. In 2011, he led Chicago to the best record in the NBA, cementing his superstar status. Sadly, in the 2012 playoffs, Rose tore his ACL, an injury that changed his career forever. Multiple knee injuries followed, forcing him to miss entire seasons and robbing him of his trademark explosiveness. While Rose later reinvented himself into a solid role player, he never regained the dominance of his MVP form. His early peak left fans imagining what could have been, a guard who might have rivaled legends like Kobe or LeBron, if not for injuries. Rose's story is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a tale of resilience against devastating setbacks. 4. Penny Hardaway Anthony. Penny Hardaway was one of the most gifted and versatile guards of the 1990s. Drafted in 1993, he teamed up with Shaquille O'Neal on the Orlando Magic to form one of the league's most exciting young duos. Penny was a 6'7" point guard with incredible ball handling, vision, and scoring ability, making him nearly unstoppable at his peak. He quickly became a 4-time All-Star and led the Magic to the NBA Finals in 1995. Many believe Penny was destined to be the face of the league after Michael Jordan's first retirement. Unfortunately, chronic knee injuries derailed his career. Multiple surgeries robbed him of his explosiveness and agility, and he never fully returned to superstar form. Penny eventually played into the 2000s, but as a role player rather than a star. His short-lived dominance left fans wondering how high he could have climbed among the all-time great guards. 5. Grant Hill. Grant Hill entered the NBA in 1994 as a highly touted prospect out of Duke, and he lived up to the hype immediately. With the Detroit Pistons, Hill was a versatile forward who could score, rebound, defend, and pass, often compared to a young Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen. He was a 7-time All-Star and Rookie of the Year, quickly establishing himself as one of the best all-around players in the league. Unfortunately, Hill's prime was derailed by recurring ankle injuries. Multiple surgeries and infections forced him to miss entire seasons and limited his explosiveness. Though he reinvented himself as a role player later in his career with the Phoenix Suns, his prime years were stolen. Many believe Hill had the potential to be a top 20 all-time player if healthy. His career remains one of basketball's greatest what-if stories, defined by brilliance and heartbreak. 6. Bill Walton. Bill Walton was one of the most unique and talented big men in NBA history. Standing 6 feet 11 inches, Walton had an incredible mix of scoring, rebounding, and passing skills. He led the Portland Trail Blazers to their only championship in 1977, earning Finals MVP and later winning League MVP in 1978. Walton's basketball IQ and unselfish play made him one of the greatest centers of his generation. Unfortunately, his career was devastated by chronic foot and ankle injuries. Walton missed entire seasons during what should have been his prime, and despite a brief resurgence with the Boston Celtics as a sixth man in the mid-1980s, his body never allowed him to fulfill his full potential. He retired in 1990 after numerous surgeries, leaving fans to wonder how much more dominant he could have been. Walton still made the Hall of Fame, but his career stands as a what could have been? 7. Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh was a modern NBA big man ahead of his time. Drafted by the Toronto Raptors in 2003, he became a franchise cornerstone and a multiple-time All-Star, known for his scoring, rebounding, and versatility. In 2010, he joined LeBron James and Dwyane Wade to form the Big Three in Miami, winning 2 championships and proving his value as both a stretch shooter and defensive anchor. However, in 2015, Bosh's career was cut short by recurring blood clots, a condition that posed serious health risks if he continued playing. Despite multiple attempts to return, doctors advised him to retire for his safety. At just 31 years old, Bosh's career ended while he was still playing at an elite level. He remains one of the most tragic early retirements because he could have thrived in today's pace and space NBA. His induction into the Hall of Fame honors his impact despite the shortened career. 8. Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson, nicknamed Grandmama, was one of the most exciting power forwards of the 1990s. Drafted first overall in 1991 by the Charlotte Hornets, he made an immediate impact with his strength, rebounding, and scoring ability. Johnson was Rookie of the Year and later became a 2-time All-Star, forming a dynamic duo with Alonzo Mourning. Known for his charisma and highlight plays, Johnson seemed destined for a long and dominant career. Unfortunately, chronic back problems severely limited his explosiveness and mobility. By his late 20s, he had to completely change his game, relying more on perimeter shooting rather than the athletic drives that made him a star. Although he contributed to the New York Knicks' 1999 Finals run, he was never the same player. Johnson retired in 2001 at just 31 years old, leaving fans wondering what he might have achieved without his back issues cutting his career short. 9. Andrew Bynum. Andrew Bynum was once considered the future of the Los Angeles Lakers front court. Drafted straight out of high school in 2005, he developed into an all-star center by the early 2000s. At 7 feet tall with skill in the post, rebounding strength, and shot-blocking ability, Bynum helped the Lakers win 2 championships alongside Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol. In 2012, he averaged career highs and appeared ready to take the next step as one of the league's best big men. However, knee injuries derailed his career soon after. A disastrous stint with the Philadelphia 76ers, where he never played a single game due to injury, marked the beginning of the end. Attempts to revive his career with the Cavaliers and Pacers also failed. By 26, Bynum was out of the NBA. His combination of youth, size, and early success makes his decline one of the most disappointing in modern NBA history. 10. Arvydas Sabonis. Arvydas Sabonis is often remembered as one of the greatest international players to never reach his full potential in the NBA. A 7 feet 3 inches Lithuanian center, Sabonis had an incredible combination of size, skill, passing, and shooting ability. Many consider him one of the most talented big men ever. Unfortunately, due to injuries and restrictions during the Soviet era, he didn't join the Portland Trail Blazers until 1995, when he was already 31 and past his physical prime. Despite this, Sabonis was still highly effective, using his intelligence and skills to outplay younger opponents. Yet fans never got to see him at his peak, when he was dominating international competition in the 1980s. Chronic knee and Achilles injuries further limited his time in the NBA, and he retired in 2003. While he is rightfully in the Hall of Fame, his NBA career will always feel incomplete due to lost prime years. 11. Shawn Kemp. Shawn Kemp, known as the Rain Man, was one of the most electrifying players of the 1990s. Playing primarily for the Seattle Supersonics, Kemp was a high-flying power forward, famous for his thunderous dunks, athleticism, and energy. He made 6 All-Star teams and helped lead Seattle to the 1996 NBA Finals, alongside Gary Payton. At his peak, Kemp was nearly unstoppable, averaging double-doubles and putting fear into defenders with his power and flair. However, his career declined earlier than expected due to off-court issues, weight problems, and struggles with conditioning. After being traded to Cleveland in 1997, he never regained his Seattle dominance. Though he still contributed solid numbers, his explosiveness faded quickly. Kemp retired in 2003 at just 33 years old, leaving fans wondering what could have been if he maintained his conditioning and focus. Despite his shortened peak, Kemp remains one of the most iconic dunkers in NBA history. 12. Jay Williams. Jay Williams was a highly touted college star at Duke University, winning the Naismith Award and leading the Blue Devils to a national championship in 2001. Drafted second overall by the Chicago Bulls in 2002, he had all the tools to become a franchise point guard: speed, scoring ability, and leadership. In his rookie season, Williams showed flashes of brilliance, including a triple-double against Jason Kidd's Nets. However, his promising career ended abruptly in 2003 when he suffered a devastating motorcycle accident, violating his NBA contract. The crash caused severe injuries to his leg and pelvis, leaving him unable to play professionally again. Williams attempted comebacks but never regained his physical abilities. By 22, his NBA career was effectively over. Though tragic, Williams rebuilt his life, becoming a successful broadcaster and motivational speaker. His story remains one of the most heartbreaking cases of wasted potential in NBA history. 13. Len Bias. Len Bias is one of the greatest what-if stories in sports history. A dominant forward at the University of Maryland, Bias was seen as the closest thing to Michael Jordan when he entered the 1986 NBA draft. The Boston Celtics selected him with the second overall pick, envisioning him as the heir to Larry Bird and the key to extending their dynasty. Bias had incredible athleticism, scoring ability, and defensive potential, with many believing he could have been a future Hall of Famer. Tragically, just 2 days after the draft, Bias died of a cocaine overdose, never playing a single NBA game. His death shocked the sports world and had a profound impact, even leading to stricter drug laws in the US. For the Celtics, it marked a turning point as their future, without Bias, quickly dimmed. His untimely death remains one of the NBA's saddest stories. 14. Reggie Lewis. Reggie Lewis was a rising star for the Boston Celtics in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Drafted in 1987, he quickly developed into the team's best player after the decline of Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. Lewis was a smooth scorer, underrated defender, and team leader, making his first All-Star appearance in 1992. At just 27, he was expected to carry the Celtics into a new era. Tragically, Lewis collapsed during a playoff game in 1993 due to a heart condition known as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. He briefly attempted a comeback, but later died during an off-season practice, shocking the basketball world. His death left a huge void in Boston and robbed the league of a player who could have been a perennial all-star. Lewis's jersey was retired by the Celtics, and he is remembered as one of the most promising careers cut far too short. 15. Maurice Stokes. Maurice Stokes was one of the NBA's early stars in the 1950s, playing for the Rochester and Cincinnati Royals. Standing 6 feet 7 inches, he was a dominant forward who could rebound, score, and pass at an elite level. In just 3 seasons, Stokes averaged over 16 points and 17 rebounds per game, earning Rookie of the Year and 3 All-Star selections. Tragically, his career came to an end in 1958 when he suffered a head injury after a fall during a game. Days later, he became permanently paralyzed due to post-traumatic encephalopathy. Though he lived for another 12 years, his NBA career was over at just 24 years old. His teammate Jack Twyman famously became his legal guardian, supporting him until his passing in 1970. Maurice Stokes remains a symbol of both tragedy and friendship in NBA history, and his story helped raise awareness about player safety and medical care in sports. 16. Dražen Petrovic. Dražen Petrovic, often called the Mozart of basketball, was one of the greatest European players to ever play in the NBA. A prolific scorer with elite shooting ability, he began his NBA career with the Portland Trail Blazers before blossoming with the New Jersey Nets. By the early 1990s, Petrovic had developed into one of the league's best shooting guards, averaging over 22 points per game in 1992 to 93. His fierce competitiveness, work ethic, and efficiency made him a rising star who could have been a future Hall of Famer. Tragically, his career ended in 1993 when he was killed in a car accident at just 28 years old. At the time, he was entering his prime and on the verge of superstardom. Petrovic's death devastated the basketball community and cut short what many believe could have been a legendary career. Today, he is remembered as a pioneer for European players in the NBA. 17. Michael Jordan, first and second retirements. Michael Jordan is widely regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, but even he retired too early, twice. After leading the Chicago Bulls to 3 consecutive championships from 1991 to 1993, Jordan shocked the world by retiring at 30 to pursue a baseball career following his father's tragic death. Though he returned in 1995 and led the Bulls to another three-peat, he retired again in 1999 while still at the top of his game. Many believe Jordan could have extended Chicago's dynasty had he continued. He eventually returned once more with the Washington Wizards, 2001 to 2003. But those years weren't at the same level. Jordan's early retirements leave fans debating how many championships and records he could have achieved had he played continuously through the 1990s. While his legacy is unmatched, the what if of Jordan's missing prime years remains one of the NBA's most fascinating questions. 18. Bob Cousy. Bob Cousy, nicknamed the Houdini of the hardwood, was one of the NBA's earliest superstars and a key figure in popularizing flashy ball handling and playmaking. Playing for the Boston Celtics in the 1950s and early 1960s, Cousy helped transform the game with his no-look passes, dribbling flair, and leadership. He won 6 championships alongside Bill Russell and was a 13-time All-Star. However, Cousy retired in 1963 at the age of 34, while still an effective player and team leader. Unlike today's athletes who extend their careers with advanced training and medical care, Cousy stepped away when he still had more to offer. Though he briefly returned in 1970 as a player coach for the Cincinnati Royals, it was mostly ceremonial. His relatively early retirement left fans feeling they didn't see all he could give. Still, Cousy's innovations paved the way for modern point guards and secured his spot as a Hall of Fame legend. 19. Larry Bird. Larry Bird, the hick from French Lick, was the face of the Boston Celtics in the 1980s and one of the greatest players in NBA history. Bird's shooting, passing, rebounding, and competitiveness made him a 3-time MVP and 3-time NBA champion. His rivalry with Magic Johnson helped save and grow the NBA's popularity worldwide. However, Bird's career was shortened by chronic back problems that worsened throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s. By 1992, at just 35 years old, Bird retired after helping the Celtics remain competitive for more than a decade. Fans were left wondering how much longer he could have dominated if healthy. Despite the shortened career, Bird still accomplished more than most legends, but his premature exit robbed fans of seeing him extend Boston's success into the 1990s. His story remains an example of greatness, cut short by the toll of injuries. 20. Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson revolutionized basketball with his size, versatility, and flair as a 6-foot 9-inch point guard. Leading the Showtime Lakers to 5 championships in the 1980s, Magic was a 3-time MVP and widely regarded as one of the best players ever. However, his career was abruptly interrupted in 1991 when he announced he had contracted HIV. At just 32 years old and still playing at an elite level, Magic was forced into retirement due to the stigma and uncertainty around the disease at the time. Though he briefly returned for the 1992 All-Star Game and the 1995 to 1996 season, his prime years were cut short. Medical advances later proved he could have safely continued playing, making his retirement feel premature. Magic's sudden exit shocked the sports world and highlighted the lack of awareness about HIV. Still, his legacy as a pioneer and champion remains untouchable, despite the shortened career.